legal requirements. Basically the CIA triad is king. We all know that. It's basically, then at that, then you have to basically see what your threats are. Do you have a competitor that's nearby that's taking pot shots at you? Are you in a space that North Korea just, wants to get to know you real good? Or are you in a new market sector that no one's in? So you're like a front leader. You know, your company just made like a new implantable device, a new implantable medical device, that allows people with diabetes and failing pancreases and livers to, 10 years of life, and it's brand new that no one's going to bother you except for trying to steal your trade secrets or, basically it's, what's your threat landscape? What's your risk tolerance? What's your budget? Because in the DoD side, hell, there's enough dark money there to, band-aid every problem pretty much, even if it's to the point of stupidity. It's like, why are we spending $20 million to implement this band-aid solution when they're doing this on the civilian side and it costs less? But hey, we've been doing that way for 20 years. Is the rebuttal. It's like, most civilians companies won't spend that much for it, but hey, the DoD's been doing it for that way for 20 years, and the budget was already baked in stone. And the senator who allowed the DoD to get away with it, was getting their kids and their other cars washed and waxed at Fort whatever, Alabama for eons. So, sweetheart deal is there too. The politics of it, especially with DoD. But on the civilian side, it's basically how much risk, how much can we afford, and if we can't afford it, how much is our cyber insurance? And I take it there's a newer security model, but I've forgotten notes on it. I'd have to reach out to my chapter president on it. But if you've ever heard of the credit risk scores such as FICO, um,
Oh, sure.
there's a FICO-like scoring system for cybersecurity that another organization's come up with, and it's a free model. So it gives them a FICO-like score number for their cybersecurity risk, per site. So you can compare how well you're doing as opposed to the others. Especially in small business, it's easy to let just stuff go. Because sometimes you just have to, accept the risk. You just have to accept there is a risk. I don't have the money to do shit about it. The only thing I can do is basically box these systems off in a closet behind 3 or 4 layers of firewalls and pray to God. Pray to the almighty cyber gods that nothing happens. We do business, we're at XYZ Corp, we do business with this bank. We have legacy 2003 terminal services that have an application that's written, in a jangly bit of COBOL and Java that interfaces with this bank's terminal. And although we have these systems isolated to internal users, if anyone gets in, if we pray to God not to, that, life can be very, very bad. But, they can try and cyber insurance it to death, or otherwise, if there's an occurrence. So you can at least have enough cyber insurance, if a user's account gets drained and hacked, that your cyber insurance will, the bank comes knocking on your door, that you can cover it and do something. But in the meantime, you basically have to eat the risk and say that, we can go over to overseas developers, or, find some good developers and pay them, a decent salary to develop a new application that runs in Linux and or Windows, terminal services 2019 or 2018, which is what a lot of companies have had to do, for mainframe applications especially, or heavy legacy applications. A lot of the other one too is Docker containers. They're paying developers to try and move those Windows 2003 components into like Docker containers that they can more readily firewall off, because it can give you that interface to the legacy application, but you can run it. You can have the Docker container running more on standby if no one's using the web-enabled terminal service for the legacy application. It basically sits there on standby and is disconnected. So it's basically spun down. So it's basically you can spin up on demand, give you access to those legacy resources that are insecure in a more secured fashion, if that makes sense. It's like, the default way, the old way of doing it was very insecure, or it basically became insecure because Microsoft isn't supporting even 2008 servers unless you're like the US Navy and you're basically sending warships full of, bundles of cash. Or your Walmart,
Interesting.
or because let's face it, there's Windows XP running on some of the nuclear submarines because they're embedded terminals. If you look terribly closely at Walmart and Walgreens and others, even some banks and ATMs, they're still getting updates for their Windows XP. They're just paying an arm and a leg for it. But no one else is. Microsoft will give you the special support packages and still backport patches for those legacy systems, but you're going to pay for it. So, pretty much the US Navy and like the other military places that still have embedded Windows XP systems, they're pretty much floating, the US Cashy Hawk past Microsoft and docking it in Microsoft's banking terminal. Pretty much every year to the tune of millions, like $10, $20 million a year just for custom updates. But like Walmart and pretty much else is probably part of that consortium too, because they have half of their cash registers, including those U-Scannets, are using embedded Windows. Because like when the recession hit, I had to go fix cash registers instead of doing like, server deployments and stuff that I was used to doing, or anything good. So, often I had to go do cash registers or fix laptops and play the Dell card game. So the point of it is that you basically have to see what your biggest threats are. Say you've taken on a couple interns that are just that, a thunderstorm follows them everywhere they go. I mean, even if you have a managed cable system, they can manage to find a network cable and get their leg trapped into it and like yank down your whole entire network just by like looking at your server room. They're like super accident prone. They're just clumsy as heck. So, you have to plan for those type of people too, or just people that are just super bungling. They don't mean it. They're like granddad, granddad CEO. Oh, hey, this looks interesting. I want to try it out. But, oh, I didn't know it was a virus. Man, I thought it was a fun game for my daughter. So, yeah, you got to figure out who your threats are, including the bungling ones, and how much money you can spend to, keep them contained. So whereas like the DoD process, it's basically that. So, people stealing your laptops at the airport, highly likely. So mitigation is like if you have cloud tools like, if they have like, if you issue them Chromebooks, like if there are certain users and they've issued them Chromebooks or even MacBooks, basically for you is that you can nuke them from orbit, like Jump Cloud. It literally can send commands to basically self-destruct itself. I don't know who has the nice BIOS level security tracking software, but I might have to, pick the brain of the guy down at the Scottish Rite Hospital but his will basically keep the will permanently tattoo the system and track it. If someone installs a new operating system, it locks them out of it and basically displays their home address. And they can send the police at any time, but they'll have a nice warning screen that pops up on there when the system tries to reprovision that says, if you drop it off at the security desk, no questions asked. Because they've had people steal their laptops rather frequently, or even try and dumpster dive for computers out of the dumpster. So until the guy removes that tattooing on the BIOS, none of their machines can be refurbished or ever sold. Most of them pretty much get ground up. So I'm not familiar with what software that he's using for anti-theft, but that's basically what they do. Like even if you wipe it out and put Linux on there, it will basically keep displaying this machine has been stolen, return to security desk, no questions asked. Scottish Rite Cathedral, Scottish Rite Hospital, Dallas, Texas, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. But most places, if their laptop gets stolen, they don't have too many good theft controls. Like Prey was the one where I said you can enable the guest account just so the clueless user will like make a Google search and then give away its location. But Jump Cloud you can use to, like for Macs, you can have it pretty much wipe any data of consequence away from it using Mobile Device Manager that's baked in. Like if cell phones get stolen, so it's basically you have to classify your risks. Which threats do you have? Competitors that are likely to spy on your organization. That too. So it's basically how likely it's malicious actors, that kind of stuff. It's like usually there's a table that you'll make. Um, you know, so FRAP is basically that. The other one for risk controls is like Octave, critical threat, asset, vulnerability evaluation, self-directed. COBIT is another one if you needed to do more audits. Like for a while they were like the local place there had a cloud thing. When I used to live in Indy, they used to host certain meetings for like security and other events there for after hours conventions. Anyway, here. Like, High Trust is another tool that was some of the seed money came from Intel. It's often used to lock stuff down and or provide extremely granular controls. But you can get a certificates in COBIT.
Pick their servers up.
Yeah, it looks like they've migrated against from their red CMS. Looks like they're running microservices. Yay.